All right. So I am really glad I didn't go live after the game last night. Had Carolina won, I had every intention of at least trying to do a quick little 10-15 minute show to talk about things, even if it had been double overtime as the game ended in the wrong direction. Now, before I really get into the stuff that I'm primarily going to do, which is expounding upon the post I made on X last night after the game was over, where I laid out some of the things that I think are affecting the team and everything like that, I just want to say this. One, I've seen people blaming primarily in a very uninformed manner, blaming Sebastian Aho, Tony D'Angelo, and Frederick Anderson. That seems to be their three favorite people to blame right now. Sebastian Aho is not just point per game, he's damn near point per period if you don't count overtime. Tony's been fine. He's not jumping in on the rush every single chance that he gets like he used to and leaving everything open through the middle of the ice. There was one time he started to in the first period last night. I noticed he held up, he made a pass, and maintained his defensive position. He's not the problem. Could Freddie be better? Yes. Do I think Kochetkov should have started yesterday? And I will get to that. Yes. Do I think he starts game 3? I hope so, but I don't think he will. So, what I'm saying here is this team has a lot of micro issues at the moment. Excuse me. It has a lot of micro issues at the moment. Very small, microscopic issues that are causing glaring problems, but it can be fixed. So, what those things are, or what I think they are, is what I'm going to go into. But the blaming Aho thing in particular baffles me. Everyone complained that he didn't put up enough points, and he's been putting them up this series at a faster pace than he ever has in any single series. If it keeps up, if this goes to 7 like I predicted, Aho will probably have 14, 15 points before it's over the way that he's playing. Jake Gensel started to shoot the puck, but he's not doing it enough. But we're going to get into all that here in a little bit. So, speaking of, and I'll give the Aho thing a rest pretty much after this. From Big Head Hockey, he posted this today, and I didn't realize how well Aho had been doing in terms of regular everyday metrics. 3 assists, I knew that part. 7 shots, plus 2, 18 on 30, or 18 out of 30 for faceoffs. So that's really damn good, especially considering he'd had kind of struggled a little bit in the faceoff circle lately. On ice for 25 shots for and only 12 against. So for those of you who look at stuff like that, essentially that's like saying, even though Corsi is shot attempts, but basically double the offensive pressure, double the scoring chances, double everything that's supposed to happen versus what is not supposed to happen as far as Sebastian Aho is concerned. So I think that here, I'll go ahead and get to the chat here. Travis C, good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a bit. I'm just in what are your thoughts on Rod decision on Kuzi? So that's actually in the X post I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. You guys won't be able to see it on the screen. My thoughts on that are not super extensive, and it ties into how confused I was about how they employed the lines in overtime and the decision to put Comtois in the game in the first place. I will get to that, though, and answer it with more detail. At the end of the day, Rod is not telling us why. We may never know. But based on the answers that he gave to, I believe it was Ryan Hinkle I was reading earlier that he was talking to, based on the answers that he gave him, he said, we were just trying something different, which to me means there was something else to it. And Kuznetsov is supposed to play game 3. That tells me there was something else to it, and he just, for whatever reason, didn't say. The fact that Kuznetsov will probably play tomorrow night makes me feel better because I was worried that maybe his issues that he'd had before had crept back up, and I was hoping to God on a human level as well that that's not what was going on. But I'm going to get into the whole Kuznetsov thing and how he employed the lines last night. And it was weird to me that he shortened the bench as much as he did. Comtois not being out there, okay. KK not being out there, okay. But Nason, unless there's a possibility maybe he's dealing with something injury related and they didn't want to overextend him. Steph Nason was the perfect type of guy to employ in the overtime last night to potentially try and win that game. But Carolina did a lot of things in that game right. Little stuff is killing them right now. That they can't get a net positive on special teams as a whole to save their life. So I'll get into all that, but thank you. Very good question. Thank you for the comment. All right. So on X last night, and you can go look over on my X and you can see this. I made a post. I'm going to read it verbatim per every single point that I made, and then I'm going to go into a greater detail than what I typed up last night because I was half asleep, yet my heart was racing. I was disappointed, pissed off, exhausted, and not looking forward to the next morning all at once when I wrote this. So I'm surprised it came out as coherent as it did. So I said, a thread since it's going to take me a bit to fall asleep, if at all, and it took me a while. One, the officiating is not the biggest reason the Canes lost and actually is near the bottom of the list. I stand by that too. A lot of people wanted to blame the officiating, which I didn't like the officiating either. Per the rule, and I will pull it up and look and see which one it is, Trouba could have got a match penalty for him trying to take Necas's head off, whether he made contact or not, because the rule is written to reflect intent, not result. Jacob Trouba should have been given a match penalty and should probably get a vacation for that. It's not going to happen though. Otherwise, we would have heard something by now about him having an in-person hearing or whatever, and nothing's going to come of that. There was one particular boarding call on Aho I didn't like. The thing with Svechnikov, everybody wants to run and yell and say, oh, well, he's dirty from where he ran into Igor Shesterkin. Svechnikov has a job to do there too. If Shesterkin is that worried about it, he needs to just keep his ass in the net and not go behind the goal line to try and do anything. That was one of those situations, kind of a fucked up hockey play. I also understand why that they gave Svechnikov a penalty in that situation, because if it happened at the other end of the ice, I would have been pissed off about it too. But if you go back and you look at the replay, you can see Svechnikov try to pivot the inside edge of his left skate, trying to slow down. He just ran out of time. And if you ask me, Igor sold that a little bit because I just don't understand why he went up in the air and rolled like 4 times. Let's see. BTS Not the Band says, I'm going to game 3. Hopefully we get a better result. I think we will. I will get into that here in a little bit. So the officiating was not good at both ends, both nights. And as soft as maybe the call that Trocheck drew that ultimately resulted in the game winner was, Carolina had a chance to not be in that position. They should have won that game in regulation, and they beat themselves in that regard. We know that the Rangers' biggest strengths are their power play and Shesterkin. Things are way too easy for Shesterkin right now, and their power play is handing it to us in a much shorter amount of time over the course of an entire game versus 5-on-5. That cannot happen. The power play constantly killing you is like somebody doing nothing but kicking field goals while you're still scoring touchdowns, and you still lose the game. That's what it's like. Or that's like someone on your team hits a grand slam and a guy just hits a bunch of base hits and you still lose. It's the same thing in a way. So, number 2, the PK worked well all season, and now it's having a difficult time against a power play that is elite. And a power play that also gets more than 1 game's worth of penalties to take a crack at it. The zone entry denials are working, but when they don't, it's leaving a ton of time and space. The last team they can do that against and succeed is the Rangers. This might be best corrected by simplifying the PK into a simple box formation instead of the zone diamond. It's going to take more of a gritty PK versus a calculated man-on-man style to mitigate the New York Rangers power play. The penalty kill used to be a momentum changer for the Canes. Now every time they have a kill, it's more like they dodged a bullet. So what I mean by that is, when I remember watching games, especially over, and it's become more and more prevalent since Rod took over the team, the penalty kill was really good. It still is, but it's totally off right now. It has been the entire postseason. The penalty kill was a momentum changer for the Hurricanes. They could be losing a game 2-0, 3-0. They'd have a series of good penalty kills, and then they'd come back and win, because that got frustrating to another team that they're like, we've had 3 power plays in 1 period or whatever, and Carolina's penalty kill keeps shutting them down, and then eventually Carolina would take that momentum, carry it to the other end of the ice, and they would win. They've not been doing that lately. The penalty kill used to be one of those things I'd sit there and I'd go, oh, well, all right, cool, PK, we got this. Whereas now it's like I'm actually nervous during a power play. And that wasn't just the Rangers series, that was the Islanders too. Let's see, Travis C., there's a podcast called Blue Shirt Bandwagon, and the last 2 titles are following laughable are as follows. Or as following: laughable effort from the Hurricanes, and Canes play best game in series and still lost. I can't stand Rangers fans. Yeah, I'm friends with a select few, but there's been some of them that have really, really been pissing me off lately. And there's one in particular on there who you have to be very disconnected from reality to call Jacob Slavin dirty. Like, it was bad enough the shit they said about Aho, but there's one on there saying that Jacob Slavin's neon kneeing people, and then there's another idiot on there that's saying Jordan Stahl is neon kneeing people. And there's one other one, I can't remember the name of it. They've only got like 50 followers, and they've like been going at this podcast and YouTube thing like twice the amount of time I have, and they upload shit way more often than I do. And no matter what it is, every time they lose, they blame the refs. And when I say every time, I mean quite literally every time. 100% of their losses, they blame on the officials. It's one of the most disconnected things I've ever seen. Like, you're a fan of an original six franchise, and that's the only excuse you can come up with. That's why the very first thing that I said in my post that I made and what I'm saying now, Carolina cannot blame solely the officiating. There's nothing you can do about how bad the officiating is. You can only correct what you can control. What the officials do is pretty much outside of Carolina's control. So that's just the thing that they got to do. So going further into the whole issue with the penalty kill. So, and this is one thing they showed on the intermission last night, and I knew what they were talking about even though I had the TV muted because I was getting kind of tired of hearing Messier talk. When Carolina's on the penalty kill against the Rangers in particular in this series, if they manage to constantly deny entry, it works really well, and the Rangers never gain the zone. They never get to set up. They don't get to do anything like that. The problem with it is once the Rangers gain entry, the Hurricanes try to get back into the whole zone diamond man-on-man thing, and it's not working. They're leaving a ton of real estate in front of the net. And if you go back and look at every goal that the Rangers have scored on the power play, they've all been within 15 feet of the same spot. So that's one thing that they have to execute it differently. So when I say, for example, excuse me, when I say that they need to go to a grittier style of penalty kill instead of this aggressive man-on-man type of stuff that they're doing, which normally works. It works better for Carolina than I've ever seen it work for a team in the post-lockout era. They need to just simplify it, go back to basics, go to the box formation, keep the Rangers on the perimeter, and don't let them work to the inside, because the Rangers' power play is just solid skill and talent and chemistry. It's not calculated like Carolina's when it's working. So that's the first thing they need to do is simplify the penalty kill. You might be able to get away with going back to the zone diamond man-on-man type of stuff next round should you get that far. It's not going to work against the Rangers. It's definitely not going to work against their first unit. So let's see, Travis C. I have some respect for some Rags fans, but when you blatantly disregard the talent of our team, it's laughable. Yeah, and see, that's one of the things that, like, when I did I don't know if you got the chance to watch it. When I did the series preview, I know it was like 40 minutes long, and I did the same thing when I did the preview for the series against the Islanders. The first thing I try and do is I acknowledge every single way that the opposing team can be dangerous, every single way that they could cause Carolina to lose, and what Carolina has to do to win. So one of the first things that I acknowledged was these are the ways that the Rangers beat you. These are the ways that the Hurricanes beat the Rangers. And I highlighted those individually and everything like that. So that's what I'm going to get into, like, a little bit more with some of the other points that I have here and everything like that. But first off, the penalty kill just needs to go back to the simple, maybe the oldest form of penalty killing. Do a box and see what you got from there, because what they're doing right now isn't working. The special teams have literally are on their way to costing us the series. So, and I'm going to get further into that in a little bit. So let's see. All right. Number 3, I don't know what the issue is with the power play. At this point, it's a much more complex situation than put Tony DeAngelo on it. So he was on the second unit in overtime a few times. He didn't make much of a difference. He didn't look out of place for not doing it for a while, but it didn't really open things up like I was hoping it would. Typically, changing the power play quarterback is the last thing you do because everybody else has a much less consequential position in it than the quarterback. It's literally the most important position in that situation. So the power play, I don't know what the fix is, but it's not a simple one. And I would say that out of all the issues Carolina has, the power play is going to be the hardest one to solve. I'd rather them solve the penalty kill first, because if they kill one penalty last night, Carolina wins that game. If they kill one penalty in game 1, that game goes to overtime and we have no idea what would happen. So that's what I'm hoping for, is that they'll solve the penalty kill first, and then the power play. But the way that I look at special teams, I've gotten to where I don't look at them as two separate. So, okay, so with the power play, 0 to 100% is how it's, measured of how successful it is. Same thing with the penalty kill. I don't look at those as separate metrics anymore. I look at special teams as one big net positive, or I'm sorry, one big net positive or one big net loss. So I scale it on a scale of 0 to 100 versus, or I'm sorry, 0 to 200 versus 100. So that way I know what they that way I have a calculation of it and everything. And Carolina, out of that scale of 0 to 200, is not doing the greatest. All right, Travis, again, do you believe Jarvis should bump up to the first line? Yes. They need to swap him and Svechnikov because that was working really well before. My buddy Sam Driscoll is going to come in here and also join. And we're going to talk some more about it. You guys, give me 1 second, please. All righty. All right, that takes care of that. Okay. So, yes, I think Jarvis should go back up to that line because the Jag line was working really well, and they've got to change some stuff. They really do. So I'm going to go into number 4 here. I'm not saying that it's time to let Rod go. Jeff Daniels and Tim Gleason might not be the right guys for the job, and I've really got to put a particular emphasis on Jeff Daniels maybe not being the right guy for the job because we're continuing to have the exact same results offensively over and over and over again. Last season, when Carolina lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, lost 4 games by 1 goal. We're 50% of the way to that exact same result, and we have a better team than we had last season. Svechnikov's there this time. Gensel, Kuznetsov. There is no other reason other than this being a systematic issue. And that's the way that I think it needs to start being looked at. So 5, the Canes created a war of attrition and still lost. This is not a good sign, as it used to be a situation they thrived in. This may be a sign it's time to let the team get younger and let some guys we were dead set on re-signing walk and put an emphasis on the up-and-coming prospects. So what I mean by that is I love Brent Burns, but there were a couple of times he coughed the puck up in situations that he normally doesn't. He's looked a little bit off in the last couple of games, and I kind of felt like he did the same thing last series, but it was like, I want to say game 1 and 2 in the last series, he was a little bit off. Then he got better as it went along. We don't really have time for that against this team, especially now that we've lost the first 2. And we have to win 1 on the road or we don't win the series. So I think that depending on how this series in particular shakes out, we got to start thinking about maybe letting guys like Morrow, Nadeau, Jackson Blake, so on and so forth, whoever's not on the, American League team, we got to start let them, getting some ice time. Do you think our window is closing? If not this year, the next year is looking kind of grim. Still have hope for the boys. I don't really think the window is closing on the team being competitive, but them being like in the top 4 or 5 teams in the league that would win a cup. It's one of those things that, like, I'm going to put, I'll put Sam up on here. Alrighty. Give me 1 second, buddy. There you go. All right. Everyone, Sam Driscoll from the Caniac Report, who retweeted that particular, the subject matter of this video. I'm on, let me tell you what point I'm on now. All right. So I'm on number 5 right now, and I'm answering questions in the chat too. So the thing is, I don't think the team being competitive, even if we lose a lot of our free agents, I don't think that that's out the window. I think that they would still make the playoffs next year, even if a lot of the prospects were in, as opposed to the faces we're familiar with. Do I think that they would get very far? Absolutely not. But the core is in its prime. I'm not really worried about the team entering another dark age. I'm just not feeling good about the rest of this season at the moment. Let's see. Who would you rather have, Gensel or Natchez? I'm going with Gensel. If there's not a coaching change, Gensel. If we look at maybe going a different direction with coaching, which I don't think that's going to happen, then I would say maybe Natchez. Gensel gives you the experience, and you get enough youth coming up to where a guy like Natchez is slightly expendable. The best part about it is you might not even have to trade Natchez. He might get offer sheeted, and you'll get plenty back anyway, and you don't even have to do anything because there's a lot of eyeballs probably on Natchez for systems that are not like ours, and he long-term might not be the best fit here. And if I remember correctly, Natchez was Francis's last draft pick. I could be wrong.
It's possible. I can look that up.
Yes, please. I think that was his last draft pick because I don't think we would draft someone like that now. Then again, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to see how everything played out. But yeah, so that's what I think in regards to the window potentially closing. I don't want to say it's closing, but it's definitely going to be a little bit more narrow for a season or two. But then after that, I think the Hurricanes team that we're going to see 3, maybe 4 seasons from now is going to be even better than the one we have now. And they'll have a longer window. They'll be younger. By then, it's like Jordo might be done playing. Aho's going to be the Francis. It was France. Okay, I figured that was his last. That was his last.
2017.
Yep, that was his last draft. Let's see here. So let's see. And I already harped on this in the beginning for those of you who weren't here, so I'll recap it a little bit real quick. Number 6, where'd it go? You can't blame Aho. He's playing great defensively, and he's producing at a higher pace than he ever was in a single series. Sam, jump in anytime on that one.
Which one again? Natchez or Gensel?
No, it was I was reading that post that you shared last night.
Oh, yes.
That I made. I said you can't, on number 6, you can't blame Aho. He's playing great defensively, and he's producing at a higher pace than he ever has in a single series.
Yeah. No, Aho was outstanding last night. There was a lot of good to take.
And you know that guy.
I don't know who that is. But I think Aho's been great, and I really don't think it's fair to harp on him this series. I honestly don't think it's fair to harp on the first line for last game, maybe the first game, but they all played well. Svech played well, Aho played well, and Gensel played very well.
We have an intruder as well. My buddy Steven down there, he's a Rangers fan.
Rempe's not going to be playing in Game 3. It's going to be Philip Hedl.
You think Hedl's going to be back?
Yep. You don't play as little as Rempe did, and Hedl not come back. So, yeah, Rempe's not playing next game.
No, I mean, needless to say, who's a better player between those two.
He is, but you can bully Hedl. You can't bully Rempe.
Well, I mean, hell, Jack Drury bullied Rempe. It was like – that shit was hilarious. BTS Not the Band says, do you think this is Freddie's last NHL season? Sam, you can have that one first.
No. One, he's under contract next year, so he would have to be LTIR. He's not going to retire.
Yeah.
So if he LTIRs them, we LTIR him, then yeah, it's his last season. But he's going to play next year. Whether that's with us, I think that's up for debate. I think that depends on what's going on here. I think there's going to be a lot of goaltending carousel. I think there's going to be a big goalie carousel this offseason because there's going to be goalies available. I mean, depends on what Carolina thinks of Kochetkov. Do they want to look at a team that I would say might have a goalie that Carolina, because Carolina likes projects? Do they go look at Darcy Kemper, who's got a decent number? Who's
not
on
a terrible
Washington team. So do you move, give them Anderson and we take Kemper, and then they get a goalie with 1 year left, and we get one with, I think, 4 years left, something like that. So not saying that's happened, not saying I've heard that's happening, but no, Freddie's playing next season.
Yeah, I think so too. What I think is going to happen next season as far as Freddie and Kochetkov are concerned, Kochetkov is going to finally start really taking the reins in the starter role. Freddie will probably... Freddie will probably be kind of like what Cam Ward was initially supposed to be for Scott Darling. He's transitioning from the starter role to the backup role, or what's more of a 1A, 1B situation at this game, or at this point in the NHL. I would say Kochetkov maybe starts 53, 54 games next season, possibly, or something like that. Maybe not that many, but you know what I mean. He'll start more games this next season, sans injuries, than he did, or start more games next season than he did this season. So I was hoping that I think Freddie will play. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. He's been fine for the most part. Let's see. Stephen Henry, great friend of mine. Fred, Rempe, or game-winning goal in Game 3.
Maybe Panarin, but I don't think you're winning Game 3.
I honestly don't either, even though I was like, last night I was like, oh, fuck, we're done. And I'm like, no,
So,
let me think about it. Yeah, go ahead.
So Sam and I just kind of recorded
Mm-hmm.
our episode. So check us out if you haven't at the Caniac
Mm-hmm.
Report. The episode will probably drop sometime late tonight or early tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this. I said you have two examples to look back on for what happened this last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent one is the most recent in memory of why we all felt that way last night. Florida,
Mm-hmm.
right? We
Right.
dropped the first 2 to Florida, dropped the last 2 to Florida. Although the more I think about it, the more I think the comparable is going to be Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Because we dropped the first 2 at home to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We dropped the first 2 away to the Caps.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a game in overtime. We lost a game in regulation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Similar reasons, right? Our power
Mm-hmm.
play, Bitellica wasn't good. Power play
Mm-hmm.
wasn't good. And I think Washington and Ovechkin got things going, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the first 2 games. So what does that mean? That means Carolina needs to come home and win. So what they had to do in 2019. They did it. They beat the defending Stanley Cup champions in a best of 7. No
Mm-hmm.
offense to the Caps, but no offense to the Rangers, but I think the Caps in that series are a better team than the Rangers are right now. Because they had Ovechkin, who was rocking and rolling, knocked out Svechnikov. I mean, the team we had then beating the Capitals compared to if we threw that team on the ice now is significantly less good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There was or that's what I wanted to add. There was a much more of a, on paper anyway, a talent disparity from the Caps in 2019 to the freshly making the playoffs Hurricanes, because it was basically a bunch of kids and Justin Williams and Jordan Stahl and Justin Falk. So it's like there wasn't a whole lot of playoff experience there. Now we have a ton. We imported some of it with Kuznetsov and Gensel. I'm glad that Gensel is scoring and shooting and shit finally, because like his lack of shooting the puck in Game 1 was concerning the hell out of me. I was like, if this guy does not start shooting, we're fucking cooked. So let's see. Travis, he says, I honestly think if we win this series, clean things up, we can beat Boston or Florida. We just can't beat ourselves. Yeah, that's the thing I was saying in the open. Like, we've kind of been beating ourselves in a lot of ways. It's like you're not gonna beat the Rangers if you don't shut down their power play. And you know, it's like the fact that we've managed to not, or the fact that like we went 0 for 10 on the power play, that's unacceptable. That has to be changed. That's part of the reason why I'm confused about why the hell Kuznetsov was out of the lineup.
So,
like,
you know, about that, I'm wearing my
Yeah.
Kuznetsov jersey right
It's
now.
too damn hot for me to be wearing a sweater right now, so that's why I'm in my.
I'm
Bauer
wearing it
tank
because I wanted to make a statement.
You go right ahead and make a statement, then, my friend.
I want to make a point because the most egregious thing happened last night was that Kuznetsov didn't play, and he got his time slashed dramatically last game. He is tied for, I believe, 4th in the team in points. He's got 4. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists, and guess what? One of those goals came on the power
play. He opened the scoring in the last series with that.
So why is he not playing? So until I see otherwise, I have to go with what Rod said. Do I think that's all of it? No, but I have to go with that. And as of right now, it was a coaching decision, and I think a pretty messed up one. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what he was smoking when he decided that Comtois was a better option than Kuznetsov. I don't care if Kuznetsov took a stupid penalty. Guess what? The penalty kill should have killed it off.
Yes.
Svechnikov took stupid penalties all season. I didn't see his butt get benched, not once. And it should have been a couple of times.
There were a couple of them that I was kind of like, bro, what are you doing? Like, and it was even worse last season. Whoever that was, he boarded and got the game misconduct for. He's very. It was someone from Anaheim, I want to say. He is very lucky he didn't get a vacation for that.
Oh, absolutely. And then you have KK. How many points does KK have in the playoffs? Big old goose egg. I like KK a lot. I really do. I think there's something. I think he's got talent. We saw that in the first 2 months of the season. I don't know where it went, but it's there. But that would have made more sense than Kuznetsov.
You know what I think when it comes to KK, because I put a lot of thought into this, and I'm actually putting some stuff together to, you know, make another video about him, because I've made like 3 or 4 specifically about KK. One of the things that I think when it comes to KK, it's when he has no expectations is when he plays the best. It was when they started leaning on him to be the second line center that it seemed like really leaning on him, like, okay, buddy, it's time for you to take the next step. That's when he fell off a cliff after he had that really good start. I never saw KK as a definitive second line center. I'm like, if he turns into that, all the better, especially at that price point. The thing is, I'm like, this is a Jordan Staal replacement.
Yeah, that's what I've been
with
saying.
a little bit more offensive upside. And, yeah, they paid a lot to get him here as far as like what they had to pay him for the first season with the offer sheet. And a lot of people lost their mind about that. And I said, think of this as a signing bonus. Think of it as like, if you take a job and they pay you in advance and say you will not make the salary next year, but this is what you make now. I think once KK gets into like, let's say Jack Drury becomes the definitive second line center, which if you ask me, our most consistent player up front, other than Aho, or not even Aho, but like the entire playoffs, I think has been Jack Drury. I really do, other than Jarvis. I don't know why I said Aho. I meant to say Jarvis. Jack Drury has been consistent in doing all of the little things well. Is he putting up a whole hell of a lot of points? No. But he's winning faceoffs. He's playing good defensively. Jack Drury, I think, is better than what I initially thought he was going to be. Not by a ton, but enough.
Jack Drury's not the answer.
He's not. Maybe he's not. But just in theory. Or, okay, I'll give you...
you don't have a choice now. In this season, you don't have a choice. It's either him, Kuznetsov, or KK. So right now, I would agree. I think Jack's had a good playoff. I don't think he's contributed as much as you would want a second-line center to contribute. But I think we're at the point where we have a 2A, 2B second-line situation right now.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have a definitive second. Staal and whoever that other person is splitting that role. Because you have to split it in half because you don't have a definitive.
Yeah. And that was the other thing I was thinking. It's like once KK, like whoever the second line center is, well, for sake of theory, we'll say Kuznetsov signs here and stays a little longer, and they put KK in the 3C slot or the 4C slot. I think once he settles into that role and corrects the little things in his game and has his expectations managed, he'll start to produce again. Not at the rate we would like for him to, but it's something that he's capable of. I think that he's like going to be kind of a Lafreniere situation, but just not produce as much points. That's what I think ultimately is going to come up with KK if he stays with the Hurricanes. Yeah. That being said, there are teams that are really desperate for center depth. San Jose is about to get Macklin Celebrini. They have Will Smith. They're going to want somebody to be the next part on that depth chart. Maybe that's a place to send KK. It's like they need it that bad. I don't know what we would get for him, but I could potentially see that happening, or maybe Utah wants him, something. Let's see. Travis C. says, here's one. Do you think Cucci is ready to come in for Freddie in the series, especially being cold? Yes. So one of the points that I made on this. All right. So I'll cover point number 7 and point number 8 both. On number 7, I said hot goaltender excuse is just that, an excuse. If you can't beat Shesterkin now, you probably wouldn't win against Swayman, Ullmark, or Bobrovsky in the next round. And number 8, to expand on number 7, Kochetkov needs to start game 3. He probably should have started this one. So one thing I said in the last live stream, and Sam, feel free to jump in here anytime. I said that I thought that game 2 was a good time to start Kochetkov because even if you lose, you have an equal sample size of him and Freddie, and then you know exactly who you should put in net for game 3. Now that's a little bit more of a question mark because Kochetkov hasn't seen any rubber in game action for however long now. I can't tell you the last time Kochetkov started a game.
Chicago.
You're right. And that was the second to last regular season game.
So we talked about this a little as well. My belief in this situation, and we kind of talked it out because I had to talk it out because I really hadn't had a chance to do that yet. Because all day I've been racking my mind. I'm like, okay, what is it we do here? And I landed on the thought process as simple as this. Kochetkov hasn't played since Chicago. So I start Anderson tomorrow. Okay. And I start Anderson with this in my mind. You have about 2 goals. And if one of those 2 is very soft, you're out. I don't care if it's in the first period. I don't care if it's the second period. That's a low number for a goal. You're right. 2 is low. You usually don't see that. But I think you have to have that in your mind because you have to win. So if you go down 2-0, 1, that's a big problem. You have to come roaring back against a very tough Rangers team. And 2, you can't afford to go down 3 or 4, which is usually when you see the goalie change. So you swap them out at that point because at that point it's like, okay, Freddie, you just nothing against you. Your team's letting you down. We're not going to let you suffer this anymore. Kochetkov, let's go ahead and get you warmed up for game 4 because you're going to start game 4.
Right.
So you throw Kochetkov in, and I would expect Kochetkov's professional, and he will probably play excellent coming in, right? But no practice today, no morning skate tomorrow.
I don't like that idea.
You cannot put, and now I really feel this way, with no morning skate tomorrow, you cannot put Kochetkov in, who has not played since Chicago. Dude hasn't skated since, I'm guessing they practiced the game the day before they practiced before game 2, I believe.
Yeah, I think they did they went to the New Jersey Devils practice facility.
So they practiced there. That's the last time Kochetkov touched the ice as an actual practice situation. So would I be shocked if Kochetkov starts? No, I really wouldn't be shocked. But the way it sounded, the way Rod talked, is that it's up to Freddie. And if Freddie can go, Freddie's going to go. And I think that's fine. But if you're Rod, if you're Jeff Daniels, Tim Gleason, I'm trying to think of Sean Felder, I believe, is the goalie coach. In your mind, you got to have a number. It is, okay, if we get behind by this much, he's got to come out. If he lets in this number of bad goals, he's got to come out. And that number has to be very low. But you got to have a very short leash.
That's why I think 2 is a sweet spot with what you're saying. I think that's good.
2, yeah. And I think that should be the number. You're at home. And this team has not let down their fans all season, at least not consecutively. And I saw a question about the 2016. I'm going to disagree with that person. I think this team right now is better than that 2016. If you look on paper, this group is better than the 2006 squad. There's more talent on this group. This team can win the Stanley Cup. I fully believe that. I'm very much a pessimist. Ask Caniac Sessions guys. You know it. I'm usually the pessimist. But I do believe this season, this team is special, and this team can do it. And if any group can come back and beat this team, it's the Hurricanes. And I think they will. They have not let us down yet. And I would tell them this, and if I'm the coach, if I'm Rod, who I have one more point I want to make about Kuznetsov as well. Rod should look at them and say, we do not want to let this fan group down. They've been with us all season. There are a lot of blue shirts out there. This is our house. They are not welcome here. Let's make them miserable. And I want a statement tomorrow. And then my one thing about Kuznetsov, and I'll say this, because it's a question. Rod's not signed yet. And I'll say this. If this was a coaching decision and a last-second one that wasn't run by anyone, there is one person who wanted Evgeny Kuznetsov on this roster. It was Tom Dundon. And he's negotiating the contract. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah. And the other Sam says, I was so happy Gensel got going last night with 2 goals. Yeah, I am too, because he was hesitating to shoot, and now he's having a pretty high shot percentage. I don't know exactly what the number is on it, but I'll have to look at it. And in addition to what we were talking about with which goalie you put in and everything like that, I was in favor of maybe not having KK in and putting Comtois in that case. So that way you can have a line that has him and Steph Nason and whoever you want to center them, be that Drury or whoever. Then you have like a line that can go get you some greasy goals and have a bunch of physicality and everything like that. I would have been totally fine with that. Scratching Kuznetsov was definitely a head scratcher for me. And I'm curious to know the details of it. But game 2, that's why I was like okay with the idea of Kochetkov being in game 2. If you're going to experiment with stuff, if you're going to change anything, especially if you're going to change the D pairs, which I don't think that'll happen regardless of what situation that we're in, because he just won't change those. Plus, there's really no other way to structure him with Pesce out and Tony in my opinion. That was the game to experiment with stuff and rule out a bunch of outlandish-ass things that you might not try otherwise. Now, if we are to lose tomorrow night, I think you change up the D pairs and you go for high risk, high reward. Put Slavin and Tony together, put Shea and Burns together, and keep Orlov and Chatfield together. At that point, you have to just throw everything you got at the wall and hope something sticks. So, and I'll also answer this. Do you think this team is better than 2016? My vote is no. I think it is. This is the best. This is why it's going to be disappointing if we don't at least win this round and go to the conference finals and make some noise. This is, in my opinion, the best team that the Carolina Hurricanes have ever put together, accounting for how much more skilled the average player is now versus back then, disproportionately speaking. I believe that this is the best Carolina Hurricanes team ever put together, and in about 3 to 4 years, we're going to see an even better one. So
Yeah.
I legitimately believe that. I do my best not to get overly excited about prospects because we have had some big disappointments in that regard. Zach Boychuk, anybody? Victor Rask, Noah Hannafin, Jake
No,
Bean.
Anderson's having a good play. Had a good playoff.
I can't stand that guy. Fuck him. But it's I hate Noah Hannafin with a fucking passion. Ryan Murphy, don't even get me started on him either.
I had his jersey. I understand that was the biggest mistake I ever made.
Oh Jesus. Oh, sorry.
I gave it away.
I don't blame you.
I was wearing it for the Game 7 against the Caps. We go down 2-0. I take that off. I look at my roommate and I said, "If we win, you can have this." And as soon as we scored in overtime, I'm screaming. 2, I just stop, run to my room, grab the jersey, and throw it at him. I'm like, "It's yours."
Oh, when we get done talking about the serious stuff, I got to tell you about what I was doing that night. That was amazing, especially since I live up here because I wasn't at the game. I wanted to be, but let's see. The whole we did it to change things up confused me mostly because scratch someone who isn't doing anything, not Kuznetsov. That's why I said scratch KK. That was all weird.
If that's true, like I said, if this is just true and there's zero else to do with it, if we get beaten this round and KK and Kuznetsov doesn't play another game, again, a player that Tom Dundon wanted and Don Waddell got for that reason, I'm just going to say Tom Dundon doesn't give a crap about nostalgia.
He doesn't.
Ask John Forsland and Chuck Caton.
Yeah.
And I've been the most critical of Rod, not because I want to be the most critical of Rod, but because I feel as though people just forgot what Tom Dundon did with Ron Francis, what Tom Dundon did with Chuck Caton, what Tom Dundon did with John Forsland. Just don't be surprised what happens this offseason.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about your feelings.
That was one of the things that I was talking about a little bit earlier and you'd already come on when I was starting to talk about it too. The thing that's rattling a lot of people, like you were saying, is that we feel like that this is a reflection of the Eastern Conference Finals last season. If we continue, God forbid, we end up with the exact same situation this round that we did in the conference finals last season. That issue is systematic. There is no reason for us to lose 4 games by 1 goal. Not with this roster. Not with Freddie playing better than he probably ever has in the postseason for us. Not with Jake Gensel. Not with Evgeny Kuznetsov. Not with Andrei Svechnikov. Not with Aho playing the best playoff hockey I think he's ever played. At that point, you got to start looking at it systematically. The problem with it is when I say Daniels and Gleason might not be the right guys for the job, if they're not here, that adds likeliness that Rod doesn't stay.
Yeah, and I'm not saying fire him. Again, I've said this as well.
Wait until the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's always what I believed. And I believed Rod's camp tried to expedite that process. And again, Tom Dundon doesn't care. Now, I think he had said enough and he said the right things to move the conversation out. Because it hasn't been talked about, even on ESPN. I haven't heard them mention it at all. And I figured they would be all about that, how awful that is. Now, I'm not saying Rod coaches anywhere else because I believe Rod doesn't coach anywhere else. I think he's just done if it's not here. Maybe the only other places would be, I think, St. Louis or Philly, places where he played. Because I just don't think he's going to go out anywhere else. But I think it's a conversation. And every time I mention it, I get laughed out of the room. But I try to think of this as how Tom Dundon's going to think about it, right? And let's remember, we had a general manager, Jim Rutherford. Anytime he gave a coach his vote of confidence, he was fired.
Yes.
Shortly after, right? Jim Rutherford gave Peter Laviolette, Peter's got our vote of confidence. He's great. Fired, I think, like 2 weeks later. I think Paul Maurice was like 10 days later. And that was it. After that, Ron Francis got the next couple guys. And then Rod Brind'Amour is Tom Dundon and Don Waddell. I'm not saying, again, Rod Brind'Amour is going to be fired. I think, and they're in a situation where they don't have to have that as a narrative anyway. They just don't sign him.
Yeah, that's the other thing about it. So it's like, I think it's like, okay, if they have a handshake agreement in place saying, hey, we will sign you again, it just depends on the outcome of this, is how much you make. I think that, like, the tipping point is going to be if we get to the conference finals and how well we do there. If we lose in 7 games in the conference finals, Rod has more than earned his extension with a little bit more than what he had last season because it's marked improvement, and he's going to have not as good of a team next season, but an even better one in a couple of seasons. I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to pull this up. The only way I see that happening is if Mark Scheifele joined Hamas. I don't like Mark Scheifele, but I don't think he's that bad of a guy.
Damn. That's funny.
Oh, you remember that, though, when they fought that time, and everyone's like, but Mark Scheifele's a nice guy. I'm like, well, not in that situation. He wasn't.
That's funny. That's funny.
That is funny. It's just I was starting to click on it, and I saw Sam, and I thought, wait, no, that's not the other Sam. It's not you, because you're here. Okay, so we have 3 Sams now. All right.
That's funny.
BG, my boy. What's up, dude? Tough one last night.
This stuff's
hockey
awesome.
left. Yeah. Lots of belief in this team. Appreciate y'all showing love to my work. Let's go, Canes. Yeah, no, we're by no means are they out of it. It's just 25-meter target. Go out there, have a dominant first shift, go from there. And for God's sake, change the fucking lines up, please. We're at home. You can afford to make some changes.
And I changed the defense too.
What do you think for that?
So I've been critical of Burns now, and I was firstly critical of Burns. I'd like to point that out. And now other people are jumping on the bandwagon. Mm-hmm. And what's hysterical to me, and I was laughing today, is everyone who hates Tony DeAngelo, has said how horrible of a person he is, how horrible of a player he is. Guess who they're saying needs to play with Jacob Slavin?
Tony DeAngelo.
And it's like, okay, because I think he was the best defenseman last night. Not just offensively. I thought he looked very good on the other side of the puck.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, I think it's time. This is not a knock on Brent Burns. He's older. Mm-hmm. He's at that age where it's time to slow down, where he's going to slow down. His skating ability isn't that great anymore. He's just not fast.
Mm-hmm.
You need a fast skater who's playing that many minutes. Tony can play with Slavin, happened before. You're not really doing anything that's scary because it's been done before.
It's been tried before, yeah.
Throw Burns with Chatfield if you need Burns with someone fast, and then Orlov and Shea can play together.
Yeah, the Orlov and Shea pair, I know that they're both left-handed, but I really like that pair, actually. I wouldn't make it that drastic of a change. I personally would just swap Tony and Burns. But, Shea and Burns, I think, would be fine. Because that was one of the things that annoyed me when people said, oh, Tony with Shea is going to suck. And I'm like, okay, now you're shitting on Shea. You're saying that Shea is not good enough. Yeah, I was going to say, and Shea is people don't give him enough credit for how good he is defensively. I mean, it's ever since we've had Slavin and Pesce, people have an unrealistic standard of how good the modern shutdown defenseman is. And they talk about, they talk about, Tony's bad at defense because of X, Y, and Z. Well, at a minimum, one third of the defensemen in the league are like that now because the game's been going that way ever since they removed 2-line pass. It became a lot more about transition. I remember over the summer, I was watching the Stanley Cup finals between the Buffalo Sabres and the Dallas Stars on NHL Network.
Wow.
1999. And Bill Clement and Gary Thorne are in there. And Bill Clement is talking about there's about to be an offensive zone faceoff, and he says something you would never hear in the modern NHL. 34.2 seconds on the clock. I don't know if that's enough time for them to set up and score a goal. You will never fucking hear that now. That's enough time to get 3. Yeah, things have changed. And so it's
And just as a big aside for everyone who says Tony can't, because there are still morons out there who say he can't.
Well, they're going to say that regardless because of other reasons.
Last season, Tony DeAngelo had 42 points in 70 games. Not great. He was minus 27. That was a bad Flyers team. I don't think any of them were positive. So I'm not holding that plus minus against him. But then look at the season before with Carolina. 51 points, 10 goals, 41 assists.
And he only played
plus 30. He played 64 games.
That was the next thing I was going to say. He only played 64 games. If he plays a whole season, he probably eclipses 70.
You know how many points he had on the power play?
A lot. 20. I remember that. Huh?
20. He had 20 points on the power play.
Jesus. And if I remember correctly, it was 2 goals, 18 assists.
Tony DeAngelo on the power play, on the first unit, I think is a must. Because everybody on that first unit is really fast. Or not, I would say, is you need someone who's quick and crisp. Burns just isn't that anymore. Again, not a negative. It's just a reality. It's father time. Look at Ovechkin in the first round of the playoffs as an example.
Yeah, he was invisible.
Exactly.
Like he could barely move.
If you want to throw Burns on that second unit, that's fine too, because you got Natchez, who's very, very fast, and more or less Natchez quarterbacks that unit anyway. But yeah,
he always finds his way up to the point with the way he likes to cycle and skate and move and everything like that. BTS Not the Band says, my parents own a business and they make a lot of Cane stuff. Let's go Canes. All right. I'm glad I know that. If you can, leave a comment on this video and let us know what the business is, and I'll share it and everything, so that way people know to check it out. And I do know this, Sam, unlike the other one that asked the Pesci question. My lines for tomorrow would be Gensel, Aho, Jarvis. I agree with that. Teravainen and Drury, Svechnikov. That could be good. Lemieux, Stahl, Nason. Please do that. I like that. Martin, Kuzi, Natchez. I like those.
I'd probably swap Kuzi and...
I'll put it back up.
I think I swap Kuzi and Drury, and I swap Teravainen and Natchez.
Yeah, I think the entire fan base is in agreement on Gensel, Aho, and Jarvis. That line was absolutely killer. I don't know why the hell they broke it up. I understand.
They had a couple of piss poor moments. But
it can't hurt to try them again now. I mean, I know part of the reason that they tried to find success another way is Foss being out of the lineup kind of threw everything out of whack.
Yes.
But Scott Creations, they make shirts and a bunch of other stuff. All right, cool. I'll find that and make sure that it's in the we'll put it out on X and everything like that. But yeah. Oh, and before you got in here, I don't know if you were watching before I managed to invite you in. I figured you and Sam were still finishing recording. The three people who caught a whole lot of heat, people were saying Aho, Tony, and Freddie. And I went on this whole thing about those. Yeah, I was like, why the hell are you blaming any of them? I was like, people are like, Aho's not producing enough. And I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like
3 points.
Well, that was the thing I said. If you don't count the overtime periods, he's not just point per game in the series. He's nearly point per period. You can't get anything else out of him. And he's still playing really well defensively too. He's not cheating.
I think criticism of Freddie is fair, depending on...
It's been a little over the top, in my opinion, some of the stuff I've seen.
Criticism of Freddie is dependent upon what it is. Last night, I kept saying to Sam, because there was a couple times, I think a couple of goals where I looked at him and I was like...
I'm looking up that right now, BTS.
You need a save. And I told him, not that this was a bad goal, but you needed a save there. And I think that's the only criticism I have for him, is Shesterkin is giving them those saves, and I don't think Freddie is giving us our saves. But
Stevie Wonder could see how good Aho has been. No kidding.
Aho's been great. I have no problem with Aho.
Yeah, no, I think he's been great.
Maybe I don't think his first 2 games of the playoffs were great, or maybe
I think
at least the first game wasn't very good. But
I think about halfway through Game 4 when I was like, okay, now I recognize him. And Game 5, I was like, okay, he's fine now. Like Game 5 last series, I was like, all right, there we go. That's who I was waiting on. And then he's played really well this entire series, in my opinion. That's why it's like, go ahead and Jarvis is probably our best weapon right now as far as somebody who can shoot and put a puck in the net. I think you have to put him back with Aho. You have to front load the lines. And to kind of revisit the whole Comtois and Kuzi thing again, because that's been the big topic lately, which makes sense as to why. We were not employing our entire forward group in overtime. That's like when we should have an advantage, is games that go that long and the depth becomes a factor. We should win a game like that 10 times out of 10.
Yes. And Kuznetsov should be out there. We should be able to rotate these lines. So when Trocheck and Zibanejad are tired, we've got Kuznetsov playing time. We've got Natchez playing time. Stahl, Aho. But no, they're not. So it's like, why? Why would you do that? You're not going to play Comtois. You played KK a little, but theoretically a KK, Kuznetsov, Mason line should be abusing any fourth line the Rangers have. Because Rimpey is slow. You should be able to skate around
That's
him.
why I don't understand why people are so afraid of Rimpey. You don't use him on the power play. You don't use him on the penalty kill. He's literally someone who eats like 8 minutes 5-on-5. He's not that big of a deal. I don't get it. All right. Who would win their dramatic from last night, Fox or Shesterkin? I am going to give that to. I was going to say Shesterkin because he got airtime. Yeah, it's like that's a photo finish right there.
I go with Fox.
Yeah,
but I mean, because he did it twice.
Yeah,
Shesterkin did it once, and it was still a penalty.
Yeah. Let's see. Freddie has been lacking on rebound control. Those second and third chances have been in the net. Yeah, I don't blame him entirely on like the game winner last night, though. That was one of the things that, like I was talking about before you got in here with the way the penalty kill's been going. It needs to be a lot simpler. They need to go back to just doing a box, doing that man-on-man stuff, and them all collapsing. And you got 4 guys that are standing on the goal line and leaving all that real estate in front of the net. It's what they're doing as far as that goes is not working. Like we can be as upset as we want about name whatever call you want. We could have closed that game out in regulation. We had the lead. We didn't do it.
So I told Sam, and I mentioned this on our podcast as well. Mm-hmm. It's if you look at these 2 games, if you kill one penalty in game 1, that game goes to overtime.
Yes.
If you score 1 power play in that game, it goes to overtime. Mm-hmm. That's how close the first game was. That we didn't play good. Mm-hmm. Now you come to this game. Our penalty kill was better. Good. Very good. Wasn't great, but it was better. So you moved marginally in the right direction on the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. If you score 1 power play, just 1, at any point in the game, mm-hmm. you win.
Yeah.
Because the Rangers got the last one. So if you mm-hmm. scored on any of your, I think what we have 6, mm-hmm. if you score on any of those 6 in regulation or overtime, you win. Mm-hmm. That is how close. If the Rangers, if you kill 1 more penalty, you win.
Yeah, and that's another thing, and that was the last point on that list that I made. This team's hesitation to shoot in high danger areas, but throw all this low percentage stuff on net, it baffles me. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm not sure Jeff Daniels is the right guy for the job now. I'm really not.
I think it's fair to question the whole coaching staff, right? Because the penalty kill hasn't been all that great. That's Tim Gleason. The forwards group and the power play hasn't been all that great. That's Broad and Jeff Daniels. Again, nobody likes to question Rob Brind'Amour because he's a cult icon for Carolina, right? And I think it's fair that he's a cult icon. He should, and I don't care what happens at the end of the season, whether he doesn't sign or does sign. There needs to be a statue of that man outside PNC Arena. Mm-hmm. Flat out, there needs to be a statue.
Well, if they can turn shit around, they can have 2 statues of him, one holding the cup up in a suit and one of them holding it up when, he won it as a player. That actually did make me think about something, though. There was one thing that I always considered. I could just imagine if Carolina does win the cup that Jordo and Aho go and they grab Brind'Amour and wheel him out there and tell him to recreate the moment where he snatched it out of Bettman's hands in 2006. It's like I could see them doing that and then it's just all holding it up together. And I'm like, all right, there's your NHL 25 cover. Not that I'm going to play it because I've been bored with those games for years now. But
we're going to hand it. We win, you know what? When we win, they're going to hand it to Rod. He's going to be the next one.
If that happens, I'm going to clip this. I'm going to clip this, and I'm going to cut it into like a 10-second segment. And every single person that had legitimate doubt, I'm going to post this underneath, and I'm like, who knew? God did, and Sam did.
That's Look, I am the one guy who doesn't have belief, and most of the time, because it's kept me from getting excited. Last season, I didn't think we were much of anything, so everything was a surprise and pleasantly so. Mm-hmm. I believe in this group. Mm-hmm. I was angry last night. I was furious. You saw we were texting. I was furious, and I think I had a right to. That was an angry way that ended because Trocheck scored. Mm-hmm. And KK's been a bust. So, yeah, that made me angry. I was furious. I thought it was a soft call, but you didn't score on the power play. I think there were a lot of soft calls, a lot of missed calls, all whatever, garbage. Doesn't matter anymore. And I've had time to think about it and cool down. Mm-hmm. But this team is special, and this team knows this is their last chance. Mm-hmm. This is their last chance together. Mm-hmm. Teravainen probably won't be here next season. Mm-hmm. Pesce won't be here this next season. And you want to get to the next round for Pesce. Because he's going to come back. You got to get deep enough, but he will come back. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it even might sound like maybe Fost is still a possibility if you get into the Stanley Cup Finals.
If we get far enough, he might pull an Eric Cole.
And then you've got a Shea,
mm-hmm.
Tavo. I already said Natchez is still a question. Chatfield.
Mm-hmm. I think Chatfield's going to stay.
It's all these guys. They know this core is different because if you get knocked out in 4 against the Rangers, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't either. It's going to win the series. I may have been wrong about the number, and I said 5, which that's fine. I do think Carolina still wins the series. I think they can still win the Stanley Cup. I think this team is better than anyone out west. Maybe Dallas, but I still think we're better than Dallas. I think
Dallas and Colorado would be the two that I'd be like.
Colorado's goaltender. We can Georgiev. I'm not worried. Georgiev. I've talked to some Avs fans of ours.
Yeah,
friends of mine. They call him Forgiev.
Yeah.
So look,
because he always gives up at least 4. Yeah.
I'm not concerned because this team. I don't care if they got Nathan McKinnon. I've watched games against the Colorado Avalanche. They don't score like that against us. It's like a 3-1, 2-1 kind of game. They're low scoring. That ain't gonna fly if they've got Georgiev in there because we're gonna pump on him.
Yeah.
And then Vancouver, Edmonton. Don't give me a break. This team,
I'm not afraid of teams with 0 depth, which is why I shouldn't be afraid of this one. But that actually reminds me, I do have an idea. If we do go to the finals against the Avalanche, and even if Tony can't play, we're gonna get him one seat on each end of the ice, right behind the net, so he can just chirp Grigoriev the entire fucking game. And then we're gonna petition to get his name put on the Stanley Cup.
At that point, what I do is I do 11-7 for game 1.
Like, Tony, what are you here for? Run him. Okay, good job. You're suspended. Okay, I did my part.
No. You do 11-7. Let him skate a shift, and then at that point, you just whatever. You don't need to play anymore. You just need to play a game.
That's what Stamkos did. He played 1 shift, scored 1 goal, and
was done.
Yeah. BTS not the man. Who do y'all think our best player has been? Our best player. If we're talking the entire playoffs, I will say Jarvis. If we're talking this round, I'm going to say Aho.
Yeah. Well. Jarvis or Freddie? I'm questionable on Freddie because these last
I gotta say Jarvis for the whole playoffs, man. It's just that the kid's on another level right now.
I feel like Freddie stole game 1 and 2.
Oh, he did. He absolutely did
against the Islanders. So it's just so hard. But yeah, I think it's Jarvis by a nose over Freddie. Jarvis by a nose over Freddie.
Yeah. But yeah, for this round, I'm gonna say Aho, and not just because of the points. Like, he's been playing like a man possessed. But he damn near ended that game shorthanded twice last night.
Yeah, I know. I was like, whoa.
Like, that would have made my day. A shorthanded fucking game-winning goal in MSG, they would have been done. They would have been demoralized all the hell back.
Tomorrow. And this is I'm not going to be at the game tomorrow because it's my mom's birthday tomorrow. So I've decided
that's a good reason not to be at a hockey game.
To have dinner with my mother on her birthday because she's stuck having Mother's Day and her birthday right next to each other.
Well, I mean, yeah, my birthday's near Christmas, so I got shafted on presents.
So I'm going to do that tomorrow. But to all those people who are going to games tomorrow, make life a living hell for the Blue Shirt fans. Be loud, be obnoxious, be rude. Don't be welcoming. Don't do anything stupid, but don't be welcoming to them. And to all the ones out there who wore the Hurricanes jersey for 78 out of the 82 games of the season and threw on the blue for the 4, you're not welcome there. Give your season tickets back. Let a real fan have it. Okay.
Just see that's one thing I'm tired of. And okay, so like, here I'll get these 2 chats here, and then I'm gonna tell you about something I was trying to do a couple of years ago, like when the team got good. You think Pesce being out is really hurting our PK? No, the PK issues are systematic. They've lost their confidence. That's why I think they need to just go back to the box formation, simplify it. And because the Rangers aren't going to be like, oh, wait, what the fuck? Because they practiced extensively against the man-on-man coverage. Laviolette had them out there doing drills against it and everything. Whereas they haven't seen them just set up a box and kill penalties and hold their position and everything like that and then clear it when they get the chance. That'll be something different the Rangers would have to adjust to. And any curveball we can throw at them right now, especially their power play, we need to do it. BTS says, happy birthday.
She'll say thank you.
Samuel Wallace says, take it or leave it. If the Hurricanes go back to MSG for Game 5, we win in an OT. Take it.
Yeah, taking that, we do. Well, so I believe we're going to – this team is capable of winning 4 straight. They lost a bad game. They didn't play good in Game 1. They answered in Game 2. They played better. If they keep on in that trajectory, because they're moving in the right direction, they played better. Now, if I expect them to play better again in game 3, that means one, the power play is probably going to be better. I expect one. I told Sam this. I said this on ours. Carolina scores one power play goal, they win the game. I don't care if it's 1 out of 10. They score one, they win. Because that right now, that has been that metric. If they had scored just one, they would have won games. Score one tomorrow, you win.
I agree. And, one of the things I talked about in the open, I think that, like, if I had my choice between what to correct right now, either the penalty kill or the power play, I'd rather correct the penalty kill first. Just because we have no idea how many power plays we're going to get.
We're moving in the right
at some point
direction.
We're going to have to kill penalties.
Yeah, we're moving in the right direction on the penalty kill, too. So keep up the current momentum. You're moving in the right direction with the penalty kill. Move in the right direction on the power play, because I think it looked better tonight. Adam Gold said it didn't look good. I don't agree. I thought it looked better last night. They didn't score, and they weren't as dangerous, but I thought it looked systematic. I think we spent an entire 2 minutes in their zone for one of them. It just didn't score. So
one of them, PP1 was out there the whole time because New York never got it out.
And that's what you need to do, right? And I don't have a problem if you score at the last second of the power play. But make sure you're taking advantage of your opportunities. Keep playing that way. You're going to get one. You're going to get one. Just be patient. It's going to come. And I'm willing to promise you we're getting a power play goal in game 3. I bet we get one. Yeah.
It's like, Rod wasn't wrong when he said we're close on a lot of stuff. We are close. That's why we're not getting blown out. Despite the horrible special teams performance and the not converting a lot 5-on-5, even though we've dominated the shit out of them 5-on-5. So it's like, if penalties weren't a thing, the Rangers are down 2-0. But the thing about it is like, oh, wait, what's this one say? I will surely do that in regards to not being welcoming.
Don't. I mean, Stormy had his way to probably pie him in the face.
Yeah. Hockey God, bless us. Make our enemy cry tomorrow. I agree. Let's do that. And, see, that's one of the things that annoyed me. So, like, when I first moved up here it was a little bit after I first moved up here, because I moved up here in late 2017. And when I got here was the year the Caps won the Cup. And then the year after that, Carolina made the playoffs. And then the season after that, this is how flexible they used to be with the whole season ticket thing. They called me and I told them, hey, I live out of area. And they're like, would you be interested in purchasing like a 5-game plan? And if you can't make a game, you can exchange it and get a later one. I'm like, fuck, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I just never finished, the process and everything. Like, I don't remember my season ticket guy's name, but he was really good. It's like, it seems like to prevent a lot of the subplants from getting in there and everything, they could find they could make like a network, like a Caniac ticket exchange thing where you have to like submit like a fucking resume basically to say, hey, look, I'm a Canes fan. Like, if you look in my closet, it's pretty evident that which hockey team I support. The only NHL teams that I have sweaters of that I just kind of randomly came into possession to, I've got the vintage Vancouver Canucks one where it's just got the square with the hockey stick in it. And I've got an old San Jose Sharks one that I just happened to come in possession. I don't remember how I got either one of those. But like, there's something they could come up with in that regard. We talked about the surcharge or, doing what I just found this out because of this. Apparently in European soccer, they relegate all the away fans to one section and they leave them there and they're not allowed to leave until the game's over. Or if they do leave, they don't come back in or something like that.
I think that's more than fair.
Yeah, something like that. Because like I said,
it's our house. It's our
it's
arena.
like,
why are we welcoming?
When I go to games in Washington, the 2 times a year that I go, it's like I don't expect to go in there and take over the damn place. I just want to go in there and watch my team play since I don't live down in Raleigh. So that's like, oh, while I'm at it, I'm going to look dead at the camera for this because I've already seen so much of this shit online. You motherfuckers that are trying to go around and sell your goddamn tickets to people that are fucking Rangers fans or that are turncoats that'll throw their Rangers sweater on if the series really, really starts going their way, like the ones in 2022 who wore it to Game 5 or wore Canes shit to Game 5 then changed their mind and wore Rangers shit to Game 7, and you purposely sell your tickets to fans that are not going to cheer for the fucking team just so you wanted to turn a profit. Fuck you. Stop getting season tickets. Stop ruining the experience for everyone else so you can turn a quick buck. I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care that your kid's in travel hockey. They're probably not going to the NHL. So go ahead, waste your time, waste your money, make some good memories. Fuck off, do something else, all right? that fucking disgusts me. And I don't even live in North Carolina. I haven't lived there since I was 17 years old. But that pisses me the fuck off that there are people who want to go to games and they can't do it. And they're surrounded by road fans in ways that could be curtailed if you just took the time to vet who you were selling your fucking tickets to, if you care at all.
I mean, one thing
Fuck
I guess you could do as well is, I mean, to be honest with you, season ticket holders like myself hate going to Rangers games and Bruins games during the regular season. It sucks. So yeah,
I'll fight somebody.
Sam and I have thrown our tickets up on Ticketmaster for those season games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I'm talking about the playoffs with my little rant.
No, and I agree with on the playoffs. What I would do for the playoffs, if I'm the organization, is I put in the disclosure any tickets that, you know, I would put it in where you can't resell tickets to X, Y, and Z. You can't resell tickets for the Rangers games. You have to sell them back to the arena at a 10% upcharge, right?
And then they sell them to,
you can do, and then we sell, and they sell them at par for, because season ticket members get it at one thing, Ticketmaster used to buy it on another, and then they sell the season tickets to the season ticket member, they buy it here, they sell on Ticketmaster here, right? Because the team has to make something as well. But I think that's what they do.
Yeah. But yeah, don't sell your fucking tickets intentionally to a road fan and call yourself a Caniac. That's blasphemy. It's bullshit. You should be ashamed of yourself. God damn it. I don't even live there. I barely get to go to games. I go to like 5 a fucking season if I'm lucky. Okay. Travis C says, thank you guys for doing this podcast tonight. I feel a lot better from last night. Yeah, bro, if you could have been a fly on a wall in our group chat, we thought the fucking world was ending. We're like, fuck, we're done. Move the team.
Matt and I almost probably came to blows. We were not happy.
Y'all do that a lot, though. If you were actually going to get really mad at each other, it would have happened by now, though.
No, I think AB and I disagree more than Matt and I do.
Oh, you think so?
I do. But I just, look, one, Caniac said they're my friends and they are awesome folks. So check them out too.
Yes, please. That's who I was on here with in my last live stream. Those two guys.
Cool. Yeah, look,
they were here too.
They're
and
awesome.
Sam Wallace that's in the chat is the co-host of their show. Really good too.
No, listen. Sam Wallace is a nobody. No, I can't.
Okay, apparently you only listen to one Sam. You can pick which one, and he says to pick him. So you know what? I'm not hating on self-promotion. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Sam Wallace is great, and he says it's therapy for him. And yeah, I think it's good to talk things out with people, especially when you don't agree. Like, because of how frustrating this has been for me, it's been therapeutic to talk about my frustrations with Ron, because my biggest thing for me is I've always felt like I have to keep it like right here, like as close to my chest as possible, because I know that just infuriates the fan base. But they're going to thank me if we get knocked out in this round. Again, I don't believe we will, but I'm talking in, hypotheticals. So if we got knocked out in this round, that means I do believe that means Rod Brind'Amour's not coming back as the head coach, because I think they're going to blow it up anyway. I don't think and I think if you look at Toronto, they're about to blow it up. They moved their press conference back a day. I expect people to get fired tomorrow. Sheldon Keefe,
I don't see why Keefe is still there. I'm sorry. I don't think he's a good coach.
Just to say that.
Wait, let me pull that up here.
Yeah, he's got all the power there, so I guess that's fair. That's funny. Sheldon Keefe's out. Look, I think it's okay to start to blow things up when you've gotten a period of time without being successful. And I think Tom Dundon is impatient and he wants to win. At least he claims he wants to win. So it wouldn't shock me if they blew things up at the season. If you get swept in the second round of the playoffs by the Rangers, a team that you're better than, yeah, that's not going to fly. So I don't think that's going to happen. I do believe Carolina is going to win this game. I told Sam, I said, well, if you go 7 and you lose in overtime to the Rangers, what are you going to do? I'm not about to go upset. It's all in a matter of how you lose. Toronto was past that point. They were at a point of it doesn't matter. If they lose, it's over. I think Carolina's at that point. I think Toronto last year was at the point of it's how you lose. And they advanced to the next round, so it bought a lot of people time. Now you're with Carolina, you're at that point of it's how you lose. So if you don't win the Stanley Cup, it's how do you go out. And if you go out and forward to the Rangers, I think a lot of people who are part of this organization aren't here next year.
Yeah.
If you go out in 7, I think it's a different conversation. Because again, it's 7 in overtime, right? It's you've played as much hockey as you're going to play, and you just happen to lose.
Yeah, and if we lose 4 games by 1 goal again, like we have to change some shit. Like,
yeah,
it's like I love Rod. He's done great things for us for so many years. But it gets to a point where it's like you cannot blame the players. You can't look at this roster and say, "Oh, these guys suck." They clearly do not. It's at the point where like we have to start thinking about making those changes. I don't think we're at that extreme yet. And like you said, if we lose to the Rangers in 7 in overtime, okay, we don't need to blow the whole thing up. We're still close. It's like
it's how. For us, we're in that stage of it's how. No matter what, there's going to be a slight retool. It's a matter of is this a retool or is this a rebuild season?
I think we're in retool territory. I really do. Yeah. It's more of a like, okay, so we've got an AHL team now. We have somewhere for our prospects to grow.
That we have complete control over, by the way.
Yeah, because they got to be president of hockey they're in control of hockey operations. And while I'm at it, one of the guys that got mad at me for the thing that I said about that reporter that wrote that hit piece on us and how I said he was going to report that, it was his story first. And I turned out, I was right because I knew he was going to say that a foregone conclusion was his story. We already knew what was going to happen. There was literally no other outcome to that. It was water is wet, the sky is blue. One of the guys who defended him said that, "Oh, look at you and your little Caniacs echo chamber." I'm like, bro, we disagree on shit every fucking day. I would hate for us to go to a hot pot together and have to all pick like which particular like sides and shit we wanted. Like,
look, you want to talk about just an example? Brent Burns. Matt and I disagree on Brent Burns. Yeah. I'm willing to say I'm the only one in our group that has a more critical take on Rod Brind'Amour. Mm-hmm. I think, AB loves Burns. I mean, it's just there are disagreements that we have about this group. I mean, I think the D pairs need to be mixed up. I don't think they agree with me on that.
Mm-hmm. I'm 50-50 on that one myself.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily agree on that. I think it's just if you think we all agree about everything, one, you don't listen to anything we say and you've outed yourself pretty bad there. Which is benefit, right? You can listen, you can watch your show, listen to our podcast, and then listen to Caniac Sessions, and you're probably going to get 5 different takes on things because I don't even agree with my co-host all the time. I am more bullish and more anti-official than Sam Wallace is. We disagree on the officials all the time. I am far more conspiratorial about the officials. Do I think they are going to be biased towards big markets like New York and Boston? Yeah. I think that's been proven, and Sam won't agree. And I think that's fine. You might not even agree with that, and that's also fine.
So my opinion on that, if I go ahead and then remind me of that, and then I'm actually going to give you what I have on mine. And yeah, Florida is beating Boston 1-6. Boston won the only game they're going to win in that series when they won Game 1. I'm convinced of that.
I think I said Boston in 5. I'm sorry, Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say no. Boston won the first game. That's all they got.
Absolutely, this game is over. For that series is over. Florida's so much better than Boston.
Yeah. It was really cool that you guys started doing this together, being a fan of both Caniac Report and The Morning Take. Yeah, dude, like, I love doing collabs with these guys, and part of the reason I like doing collabs with them is because we disagree about shit, because, like, I won't say who, but there's certain other Canes podcasts and shit out there. One of them says jump, the other one says how high, and the third one says that was fun. They don't ever fucking disagree about anything.
No, go ahead.
It's all fucked. Here's basically, let me summarize it. Fuck Tony DeAngelo, and fuck Tony DeAngelo. That's about it. They're like a fucking Pokemon. They only know how to say one thing. They blame him. They blamed him for shit even when he was a healthy scratch.
So you can out them. I can't. But
I'm not going to out anybody because they haven't come at me directly yet.
That's probably smart.
Now if they come at me, it's fucking on. But they haven't done that, so
they might not be that stupid. But yeah, look, it's just a reality. Is
that hits more ankles than a 4-year-old?
I would say that's Brett Pesce, but recently maybe Brent Burns.
Brett Pesce is one of my favorite players of all time. That being said, I don't want to get in front of any NHL player's shot. I'm a fucking beer leaguer. That's the one that I think might not hurt.
I was about to say, if Brent Burns is winding up to take a clapper, I'm probably moving out of the way. If Brett Pesci's winding up to take a clapper, I'll take my helmet off and get in the way.
Just be like, here, knock this one out.
Oh, it just bounced off. Yeah, no, Brett Pesci doesn't have a shot.
It's like a mosquito.
but yeah, Burns' shot needs to get through a little bit better. That's
that was one of the things that used to annoy me with Orlov in the beginning of the season. I'm like, bro, you've got like a ridiculously high shot velocity. Why is nothing getting through?
Yeah, it's like, there needs to be a lot of changes with the roster. I think before game 3 tomorrow. And I'll be honest with you too. I think if there's no changes, we can still win. The power play,
especially on home ice.
You get to dictate the matchups, everything. It's all you. And this is when we find out. And I'll say this too. Another thing we all disagreed with. Mm-hmm. And Matt and AB laughed at me when I said that Laviolette's a hell of a coach. Mm-hmm. And this is a closer coaching match. And I think I've been proven right that this is not just a Rod outclassed Laviolette. No, Laviolette's a hell of a coach. Mm-hmm. And he's proven that in games 1 and 2. He proved that before the game, but he was prepping for our system.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a coach.
Yeah. Oh no, I never doubted his abilities as a coach. I just thought Rod had the edge there, and that's more so from like the recent history of how well he's done with our team and everything like that. Like Laviolette, here's the funny thing about it: Laviolette and Paul Maurice, I think, have been the 2 biggest coaching matchups that Brind'Amour's had, and John Cooper. I'll throw him in there too. Those have been the most difficult coaching matchups he's had. John Cooper is John Cooper. No one's questioning his resume.
John Cooper is the best coach in the National Hockey League.
I mean, he's definitely up there.
I'm not giving it to Rod till he wins the Stanley Cup, and John Cooper.
Yeah, and Cooper's got 2 of them.
Back to
Damn near had 3.
Yeah, and I think it's Cooper. Like, one, if Cooper became available and I'm the Hurricanes, it's hard to look at that and say, "Oh, Rod, I love you," but that's John Cooper.
Yeah, but as Trip Tracy says, it's a results business. I'm not saying that would be the answer, but Trip is right. It's a results business.
Yeah.
And Travis says, other than the Canes, who you like? And I got to say, the Stars are fun to watch. So one day I'm going to make a video about this, about my favorite players on other teams. And Dallas has most of my favorite non-Hurricanes, primarily Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen, Roope Hintz, and let's see. There's someone else from that team. Like, I like Esa Lindell. I love Esa Lindell. Part of the reason that I like guys like Slavin and Pesci so much, I love simple shutdown defensemen. It's just Slavin's on another level from everyone else in that regard. Like, my favorite Islander is Adam Pelech. So like when him and Tony were yelling at each other, I'm like, oh, this is cute. 2 of my favorite players yelling at each other about whatever the fuck they're yelling at each other about.
I like Colorado and Florida. Mm-hmm. After what Colorado did to Dallas last night.
Yeah, that was hockey images that predict unfortunate events. Had quite the fun with that. Let's see. But yeah, I like Dallas in the West. Let's see. I actually,
in the East, if you're just talking about teams in general, I like Columbus.
Yeah. As far as like during the regular season, the other teams I like to watch, and there's a multitude of factors with this, like if I like their players, their commentators, all that type of stuff. I actually really like watching the Islanders because I'm a really big fan of Adam Pelech and Casey Cizikas, and I really like hearing Brendan Burke call games. I like watching the Sharks because I think Randy Hahn is a good commentator. Anytime Gord Miller's calling a game, I'm typically watching that one because he's one of the best that there is. Let's see. Who else do I like watching?
Seattle, John Forsland, man.
I still get pain watching that, though. I can't do it. It's like hearing him say, hey, what do you say against us makes I can't do it. Let's see. If Rod leaves, which I don't think he will. I ultimately don't either, but we'll see. Who do you think will replace him? There's a lot of coaches on the market still. Woodcroft's still out there.
Who's your number one? If you're Tom Dundon, you've moved on from Rod for whatever reason, who are you putting pen to paper to? Of available. So this does not count Pittsburgh's coach and Sullivan. It does not count Tampa's coach and Cooper because they're still technically employed.
Yeah, they got one more year.
Same with Sheldon Keefe.
So Sheldon Keefe would no, not if he did it for free. I'm going to say Woodcroft because I feel like that he didn't get enough of a chance to prove what he was capable of with Edmonton because they rely so much on Draisaitl and McDavid up front.
I say Woodcroft too.
If you give him a team with some defensively competent two-way players like we have with most of our current roster, I think he could do some damage with it. Now, I'm still currently taking Rod over anybody, but if Rod was not a factor, I would say Woodcroft. I would say if you could just give him 1 year, and which I think he would take as a prove-it deal because he's still a relatively new coach, but you throw him in there, give him a year to see what he does. I think he could potentially make some really good stuff happen if that became the case.
I go Woodcroft, Berube, and I'm going to get so much flack for this third one.
Tortorella.
Mike Babcock.
Ooh.
And then number 4, Kirk Muller.
My only memories of Kirk Muller are when he was in Carolina, and I was overseas for a lot of that, and I remember people were like, oh my God, fuck this guy.
Kirk Muller, I believe, is the assistant over in Tampa.
I thought he was in oh, no, that was before he used to be in Montreal. That's right.
I think those are some options. Now, I like the fringe coaches. Love Torts. If Torts is available, he's my choice no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not counting that because I don't think he's available. But and I do like Mike Babcock. Mm-hmm. I think he's a great coach, and I think this team could use what he could bring. Mm-hmm. And then I think Woodcroft, if you look at his numbers and compare them to Rod's, they're very similar with a shorter amount of time. Their winning percentage is pretty identical. Mm-hmm. And then I think Kirk Muller was put in a bad spot when he was our head coach. He was never given the pieces to win. And now he's been around a winning culture, I believe, with John Cooper. And I could be wrong. I'm like 95% sure he's the assistant coach of Tampa. And I'm going to Google it because I don't want to be wrong. But I know he was the assistant coach of a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. You think the goals, Sam Wallace says, you think the goals we are getting on the Rangers more on their 5-on-5 play or that Shesterkin is beatable? Shesterkin is most certainly beatable. So when I was talking about the goalies we would potentially face next round if we get past this one, if you can't beat Shesterkin, you can't beat Swayman, Allmark, or Bobrovsky, in my opinion. Out of those 3 and Shesterkin, out of all those aforementioned, the easiest one to get in their head and make him fucking melt is Shesterkin. You can get him off his game.
My apologies. Capitals.
That's right. Because I remember seeing him when I was there last time. And I was
either way,
I forgot about him.
Either way, he's got a lot more experience, and I think Kirk Muller's it would be a sneaky good choice.
Mm-hmm. I'll take on Islanders fans any day compared to Rag. Most of the Islanders fans I know are some of the coolest people I've ever met. One of my best friends in the whole world is an Islanders fan. That's the whole reason him and I started talking with each other was because he had an Islanders sticker on his car, and we just got to chatting one day about it. Hey, doggy.
Oh, shoot. I didn't even know she was on the bed. I saw her pop up at the camera.
Mine he kind of hangs out down here so you can see like his tail when he walks by once in a while, and sometimes he'll jump up on the couch. When it's hot outside, though, he just lays on the floor. BTS, not the band. I'm getting off here. Thanks for being nice. I'm like, as I can be. You are quite welcome. But yeah, we will wrap this up here in a little bit because I have to go to work in the morning as much as I don't want to. But yeah, we wanted to be able to just. So ultimately, for those of you still watching retroactively, whatever, I'm gonna say what I say, and then I'm gonna let Sam finish up here. Back away from the ledge. Take a deep breath. This fight is far from over. We lost 2 close games in one of the toughest arenas to play in. Our deficiencies, for the most part, are easily identified. It's stuff that we've dealt with before, and if you think that you're going to win the Stanley Cup without facing adversity at some point like this, you're wrong. There is absolutely no team in the modern era, ever since it became 4 7-game series, that ever went through and didn't lose 2 games in a row at some point. I'm pretty sure.
LA Kings 2012 were down 3-0.
That is true. And you know what they did?
They won the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Do not believe this team with this roster is out of it at any point.
Let's defend PNC, fellas. I'm
even
down for
if
that.
they lose tomorrow, and they're not going to lose tomorrow, I don't believe they're going to lose tomorrow. They're going to come in to the loudest house in the National Hockey League, and the Rangers are going to be rattled.
It's going to be Game 3 versus Washington in 2019 again, I think.
Okay.
I'm like, I have a feeling that's what it's going to be like. I really do.
Because
But like,
that arena gets louder when you play teams like Boston and New York. Always,
Mhm.
always, always, always.
it ain't done by any means. No, it's not. I'm still nervous going to both games. Yeah, I need to try and make it down there soon.
If you come down for game 4, it's a Saturday. I mean, hell,
I'm gonna try. It depends. It's just work has me like all kinds of swamped right now because you know what I do for a living and you know what goes on in the world right now. So that's why I've not been able to do much. That's why I didn't upload a video for like a month.
I mean, hey, if you end up being able to, and if Matt's there, AB's there, Sam and I are there, we all need to do a tailgate at that point. And have
Absolutely, we haven't got to do that since the home opener. But to continue on what J-Dub here was saying, who's a very, very frequent contributor of the channel, if you can't hang with the team right now, you sure as hell wouldn't have liked what went on for 9 years, not all too long ago.
Yeah. I became a fan that season. That last year we made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I suffered.
The 2009 year?
I suffered that whole 10 years, every season.
And
if you were one of those with me who suffered through those dark ages,
yeah,
it sucks right now, but nothing sucks worse than that. This team is good. This team is better than it ever has been. Don't give up on them. Don't. You'll be regretted.
Got to see the Stanley Cup at the Stadium Series. Took me and my GF 2.5 hours to get there to see it, and I didn't touch it. Did I make a mistake? No, you did not. So here's my opinion on touching the Stanley Cup. If you didn't win it, if you're not the guy who takes care of it, don't touch it. I've been next to it because they brought it to Cross Creek Mall in Fayetteville where I grew up. I stood next to it, and my dad didn't have to tell me not to touch it. How old was I in 2006? Goddamn. I think I was 14. I don't remember now. I knew better than to touch it. I've got a picture of me with it somewhere. When there was when the Caps won, some of my friends here that got to see it, they were basically having sex with the damn thing with their clothes on. They were all over it. Me personally, I'm more of a don't touch the fucking trophy if you didn't win it. One of the reasons I'm like that is because one of the kids, I forget which one, that survived the Humboldt crash, they took it to him. He asked them to point out the 3 places where Jonathan Toews' name is on the cup, and he still refused to touch it. I will not touch that trophy if I'm ever near it because I didn't win it. I don't believe in that.
Was it Messier who chased PK Subban around the
I respect
ESPN?
PK for that. I respect PK for that. Like, I don't like what he said about the whole Trouba thing today, but him running away from Messier as he's chasing him around with the Stanley Cup, I thought that was funnier than hell, even though fuck Messier. It was funnier than hell. And 2, I respect PK for that. That's the thing with him and guys like Bisnet. And it's like there's 3 or 4 things in a row. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're cool. And then they say something stupid. I'm like, God damn you guys. I was just starting to like you.
I love Bisnet. I know you two got into a small little spat. And I
get your head out of your ass, Homer. I'm like, bro, you change your opinion by the hour.
I about died when I saw that he commented on your thing. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
And I think I responded in the best way possible. I said, really, I'm honored. I got chirped by Paul Bisnet. I'll take it.
Paul Bisnet's funny. Him and Glassbanger makes me.
I'll never say that he ain't funny. He's funnier than hell. No, my favorite thing with Bisnet was his little thing with what's the Kraken mascot? Bowie. Him and Bowie getting into the fight and everything. He had the little stuffed Bowie, the Kraken mascot, and he ripped its head off after they got eliminated from the playoffs last year and threw it on the ground or whatever it was. And he's like chirping Bowie on Twitter and everything. J-Dub says all we need is one on the road, and we still get 2 more chances. It was always this. We just almost got the road. 1 early is all. We're good. I think we are too. It's like that double overtime loss is staying, especially after what happened with we were in 5 overtimes last season when we lost to the Panthers in game 1, especially after Jarvis dented the crossbar like he did in overtime. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This has got to be bad luck. And then Bobrovsky went into God mode. Yeah. Last comment. I'm from Fayetteville too. Miss my Fire Ants. One of the best names. Yeah, I don't like Marksman nearly as much as Fire Ants. Fire Ants was like, one day I'll talk about it on this channel. I was actually going to try out for that team many years ago. I'll tell that story another day. To Messier's credit, he did say the Shea cross check shouldn't have been called. I had already turned it off at that point, and I usually mute the intermission. I really do.
Messier had a lot of good things to say about Aho in the second intermission. He was praising Aho left.
That, and I'm still unpacking from where we moved, so during intermission, I grab a small box and be productive. That's why you guys hear from me more during the game than during the actual intermission.
Yeah.
I still remember all the posts we hit this and last year, those post rips still haunt me. The Jarvis crossbar one in overtime in game 1 versus the Panthers, like, I see that shit in my sleep as much as Jarvis probably fucking does. Like, that was awful.
And that kid came back with a vengeance this season.
Oh, yeah, he did. That's why they need to move him up the fucking lineup.
It fueled him. I fully believe it fueled him.
Yeah, that, like, out of the 2 RFAs, Jarvis far and away has to be the one who stays. That guy
it's not
he's Natchez is magic with the edge work and his ability to make transition plays and create time and space. Jarvis is probably the most complete forward on the team other than Aho. Every single bit of his game is well refined. Interesting fact, there are 3 Stanley Cups. The original is in the vault room at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. That is true. With the original Dominion Bowl attached to the top of it.
I haven't made it out that way yet.
I haven't yet either. In a way, I'm kind of protesting going there because they won't put Rod in there. And that kind of pisses me off.
The moment Rod gets in is the moment I plan a trip.
That's why I'm waiting. It's like until... Good night, Travis. This is one of my first subscribers, by the way. Thank you very much for all the support. You have a good night. And J-Dub says, Jarvis stays or we riot. Yeah, Jarvis is going to stay. And, you know, there's... Now, after July 1st, I'm going to go ahead and dispel something now. And for those of you who are new, I'm not an insider. I'm not anyone special. I don't know shit, except for what I come to by way of logical conclusions. After July 1st, you will hear a lot of people start saying Jaccob Slavin is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the next season, blah, blah, blah. Slavin's not going anywhere. You don't give up the guy. Yeah, he right after July 1st, when he's eligible for an extension, once they hammer out everything else and they know what the money's going to look like, Slavin will get signed. Slavin's not going anywhere. You don't give up somebody who's literally the best at, when it comes to categories of defensive defenseman, which I hate that term, shutdown defenseman, stay-at-home defenseman, whatever you want to call him. Jaccob Slavin is the best that there is at it, and there is absolutely nobody remotely close to him. The closest guy to him is Adam Pelech, and even then, Slavin clears him by a mile.
Slavin's going to get a contract, 7-8 mil, probably by 7 or 8 years too.
And he wears a letter, and he's been wearing one the longest on the team, other than Jordo. They need his leadership, they need his experience, they need someone to temper, because Aho will go in the room and yell at people. Slavin won't. So it's like you need like that steady like presence and the leadership there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Slavin's getting signed. After July 1st, Kevin Weeks or somebody's going to be like, oh, man, I don't know. They ain't signed him yet. It's July 1st at 12:01. He's not signed. Slavin will get signed. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Sam Wallace is world traveling.
Yeah. Nice, Samuel. Yep. All right, everybody. Good night, Travis. Good night, J-Dub. Good night, Sam. Good night, everybody else that's in here. I will try to do a quick pregame live show tomorrow if I get home from the day job on time. If I do that, it'll be around 5:30 or so. I will post on X, and I will post on here if I'm going to do that. Thank you all very much for showing up. Sam, take us out, please.
All right. Hope everyone has a great night.
Tell them where they can find you at.
Hurricanes are going to win this game. We're going to beat the Rangers. We're going to beat them both times. I believe in this team. This team has not let us down yet. You can find us on Twitter at the Caniac Report, on Twitter, on Instagram. I would tell you where my personal Twitter is, but I rarely use it, so I don't even know the handle. So yeah, you can figure it out. I'm sure you could find me if you really, really wanted to. But
yeah, not to mention, it's
win.
like, yeah, he's on my page too, so you can find him there.
Hurricanes are going to win, man. We're going to win.
No, they're going to win tomorrow night. I expect a decisive victory tomorrow night. Game 4 is going to be hard.
What's your score predictions? You want to do those?
5-3 Carolina.
5-1 Carolina.
Yeah, I hope you're right. All right. Everybody, it has been wonderful. Go Canes. Everything's going to be fine. Let's go have fun. All righty. And